Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really chilling alternate history. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if the United States hadn't fought against the Axis powers in World War II, but had actually joined them? It seems like a simple question, right? And we all think we know the answer. But the thing about history is that it's not a straight line. One or two different choices, a few key moments going the other way, and the entire story could have a completely different and much, much darker ending. So, on the left, you've got the world we know. Victory parades, celebrations, the end of a nightmare. But on the right, well, that's a world where the nightmare is just beginning, sealed with an atomic bomb over Russia. So the big question is, how on earth could that have happened? All right, to get our heads around this, we have to go back in time. We need to look at what the United States was actually like in 1940, because it was a nation that was deeply, deeply divided. You've got to put yourself in their shoes. The country was just dragging itself out of the Great Depression. The memory of World War I and all the lives lost was still incredibly fresh. So when war started brewing in Europe again, a staggering 80% of Americans wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. And this feeling wasn't just some background noise, you know? It was an organized, powerful movement called the America First Committee. And this was no fringe group. We're talking 800,000 members strong. And their most famous spokesperson was a genuine American hero, Charles Lindbergh, the guy who flew solo across the Atlantic. When he talked, people listened. And right here, this is it. This is the exact moment our timeline splits. In this alternate history, Lindbergh channels that huge anti-war feeling and runs for president. And on a simple, powerful promise to keep America out of the war, he wins. He actually defeats Franklin D. Roosevelt. Okay, so Lindbergh's in the White House. But wait a second. How do you go from a policy of America first and staying out of the war to actually joining an alliance with Nazi Germany? That's a huge leap, right? Well, let's see how the unthinkable becomes a reality. President Lindbergh moves fast. He starts framing the real threat to America not as fascism, but as Soviet communism. He uses that fear to sign a secret pact with Germany and Japan. But to get the American public on board, he needs a spark. So his government fakes an attack on a US warship and blames it on the Soviets. It's a classic false flag operation, and it works. The door to an Axis partnership is now wide open. You've probably heard FDR's famous phrase, right? That America must be the arsenal of democracy. Well, in this timeline, America becomes its dark reflection, the arsenal of autocracy. All of that incredible industrial power isn't used to free the world, it's used to fuel the Axis war machine. And this isn't just about politics, it's about industry, it's about money. The biggest names in American business, Ford, US Steel, Standard Oil, team up with their German counterparts. And just look at the results. This alliance is mass-producing engines, armor, and fuel on a scale the Allies just can't compete with. With America's industrial might on their side, the outcome of the war is no longer in doubt. So that's it. Game over. By 1946, the war is won by the Axis. But what does that victory actually look like? What's it like to live in this new world that they've built? Well, the winners get to draw the new map, and that's exactly what they do. The world gets carved up into three huge spheres of influence. Germany takes Europe, Japan takes Asia and the Pacific, and the United States gets total control over North and South America. Britain is crushed, the Soviet Union is gone, and a new global body is created to cement this new world order. Of course, it's not enough to just win the war on the battlefield. You have to win the war for hearts and minds too. So Hollywood gets turned into a full-blown propaganda machine, cranking out big-budget blockbusters that celebrate the alliance with Germany and glorify the fight against the so-called Bolshevik hordes. You'd think after all of that, there'd finally be peace, right? Nope. Not even close. Victory just creates a new enemy. With the Soviets out of the picture, a new Cold War kicks off, this time against a communist China that refuses to bow to the new world order. And back home in the US, things get pretty ugly. Anyone who speaks out against the new regime is silenced. Propaganda is everywhere, from schools to the news. But the American spirit isn't that easy to stamp out. In the shadows, a resistance movement begins to grow, a network of people who refuse to give up, keeping the hope for a different kind of America alive. So, on the surface, this new Axis empire looks unbeatable, like a fortress. But empires built on fear and conquest are never truly stable. And by the 1970s, you start to see the cracks forming in the walls. And it's not just one thing, it's everything, all at once. The economy starts to fail. The endless proxy wars against China are draining money and lives. And at home, a new generation inspired by the underground resistance starts demanding their rights. The whole system is beginning to rot from the inside out. And you can see this battle playing out everywhere, especially in the culture. On one side, you have the official, state-sanctioned TV shows and music, and on the other, you have this vibrant, defiant counterculture. Banned books are passed around in secret. New, rebellious music like rock and roll and freedom swing becomes the soundtrack for a generation that wants change. Okay, let's take a breath. Thankfully, this is just a what if, it's not our history. But it is a powerful reminder that democracy isn't guaranteed. It's fragile. It's something that has to be chosen over and over again. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? What crossroads are we standing at today? And what kind of world are the choices we're making right now building for the future?